Following on from the last video where I was painting up the Imperial Greatship, I'm now just trying to sketch out some ideas for the sails that I can paint up. They're much smaller than you imagine. You start drawing something and everything ends up being too big, but I wanted to do 4 different sails on the ship. And the big sail, the main one, I'm going to go for something like this griffin holding a spear sort of thing, because I've called the ship the Spear. And then I'll go for kind of standard, a skull with a crown, KF. And then I'd like to do something with the cannons, maybe crossed cannons, some flames. And then I'll probably just go with conventional Imperial cross type thing. Pretty much copy the ones on the sails sheet that you get with the ship. So yeah, this griffin with a spear, it's pretty much the layout I want, but it's just too big. Probably going to paint onto this stuff here once I get that sealed with some varnish. I will be able to trace my little sketches here and hopefully make a nicer version. So, method for getting that across to here. I can make as many sketchy lines as I want. There's no limit on that because I can tidy it all up. Just with a light pencil. Yeah, just want to make sure that I'm within the space allowed. I'm not trying to make anything too fancy here. It's just with the construction lines, it gives you something to trace over. Yeah, something to that kind of proportions. I have to work on that wing. Yeah, something like that. Can put some other colours and things around about that. I can develop that further to fit the space better. My crossed cannons are pretty much what I would want, and then something like that should be okay to do. So I'll now try transferring the image onto the actual sail. I have sprayed this with some varnish in the hope that when I add paint that the paper won't crease up too much or change. So that should work okay. So I'll carry on and complete the rest of these before moving on to the paint. So to get the painting started, I'm just going to use some yellow. All the original sails are drawn on a yellow background, so I'll do the same. The more paint I add, the more the drawing is going to disappear, but by then I should have the base colours kind of all blocked in. So the paper I'm using is not entirely opaque, so I'm hoping that would work quite well for sails. We'll see how it looks. But so far at least, it seems the paint isn't going to cause the paper to get too wet. I don't mind doing the sails for for the flagship, you know, the main man of war. I don't think I would want to do this for every ship that I paint. But yeah, maybe for the larger main vessels, you can justify the time input. I think the griffins and things on these sails and banners are usually depicted nice bright reds. Certainly going to be bright. I'm going to try and leave some sort of indication of the line work underneath to help me later when I have to add some line work to this. Because otherwise it's just going to become a big red blob. Maybe use some darker red paint to help define some of the edges and the shading. It's more work than you think, doing the banners and the sails and things. After spending quite a lot of time on the miniature itself and the paint job, it's a bit of a setback to realise that you've got to do a number of large freehand sails. But I suppose, as I said before, I maybe don't begrudge the flagship or the man of war in a fleet. Maybe that's the one to spend the time on, and then use the provided sails for the ships of the line, the other squadrons. Otherwise you're spending as much time doing this when you've got a stack of miniatures that need painting. I think the bit out of all of this that's concerning me the most is this skull. Try to get a half decent look to that. I was waiting to say a face, but it's not really a face, but trying to paint that I think is going to be the tricky bit. But I'll carry on with these base colours and see how it looks. Trying some shading on the red with Carberg Crimson. I think by the time I've finished adding all the layers of paint to this, the paper I've used, I don't think you're going to be able to tell that it was, well, a bit less than opaque. I was imagining the light kind of shining through it and making the sails a little bit luminous in some way, but I don't think that's going to work like that. Just trying to work up through a few greys to try and get some highlighting done. Makes you start to appreciate the official ones, because they've managed to, well, whoever did them has managed to get in some really nice shading and highlighting at a very small scale. Kind of just hoping if I keep going at it, it'll start to look good. Quite a light grey now. Maybe run around that a couple of times to try and get the brightness up. And then on the cannons as well. Because it's these little specular highlights that help sell it as being metal. Maybe some around the initials. Try and make that look a bit more interesting. Then on the spear. Getting there now on these. Just need white highlight perhaps on this representation of the gem. This, the KF insignia, initials around the skull, I just feel like there's a bit of a gap here that's bugging me slightly. It'd be nice if there was something there, but then I'm trying to think what would make sense there, I don't know. Completely out of practice drawing on highlights to gems. As I always just use gloss varnish on the gems that appear on miniatures. I think that's enough for painting in the griffin. Remembering to add the blue borders around these. Just kind of taking a breath and then going for it in one pass. We'll go back and go over each of these again. I'm just trying to keep it neat by doing it in one movement. You can see it's going to need a few layers to build up the brightness of that blue. So this Unipin fine line 0.05, I'll presume permanent black pen. If it's a water and fade proof, you'd expect it to be reasonably permanent. I'm just going to go around all the different shapes. The studio sails are incredibly neat. Just looking at the black outlining, the lines are very straight. They do appear to have done a line on the inside of the blue. So that's one outlined. So I'll get on and do the rest. Okay, that's all the outlining done. The smaller flags, they don't need, the pennants, they don't need any outlining really. You just got to watch that, let that ink dry. If you were to put your hand on that, you'd probably smudge it. So I'm going to let that dry and then paint the back. Yeah, I'm just trying to get the backs of the sails done with a similar effect to the colour shown on the backs of the sails that came in the boxed set. Kind of mottled, creamy tone. So that would have been on the back of the sails if you were to cut them out from this sheet. So I'm just hoping with a bit of dry brushing, well it's not dry brushing but stippling, I might be able to get something similar. Don't use your finest brush for this. I'll try and bring up the brightness with a few passes of doing this. Okay, feels like I'm almost getting there now with these sails. Got to cut them out though. I think I might just separate the sheet a bit. The backs look like that. Like I say, similar to the real ones. A new knife on the, or a new blade on the X-Acto, because I want some decent cuts. Now, I can't guarantee that these are going to be the exact size of the originals, start to lose the original line a bit. I just kind of want to leave some of that blue border showing. So I'm just eyeballing it really. Maybe a good idea just to divide the sheet up a little bit, so I'm not putting this ruler on top of the paintwork. So I'll go ahead and cut the rest out. Trying now to get the sails attached. So what I've done is run a line of super glue on this tray here, and you should just be able to dip the edge of it. To try and get a bead of the glue across it, across the top. And carefully offer it up to the yard arm. Should hold. Almost wrong. Watch what you're doing. Put that one there. It's funny because each of these kind of hide the last, but well, I guess that's just how it goes. The sizing is working out okay. Yeah, this one up here. Just try and hold it for a second, or like half a minute, just to encourage it to stay in a position where it looks like it's catching the wind. Okay, there we go. So that's the 4 mainsails on. Just leaves these pennants for the flagpoles, but we'll do that with Brit stick. I find these are always the trickiest ones to do, so far at least on the various boats I've done. Just a case of trying to get some glue on one side. Maybe don't worry about it too much. So that's the Imperial Greatship finished now. It does become a bit of a project once you decide to tackle painting the sails. Not sure I would do that for every vessel. It is a lot of work. Hopefully worth it for the flagship, the main vessel in the fleet. But you can start to see how nice it looks when you add in the previous, the war galleys that I painted previously. You start to see that fleet building up. I think to be legal for the game you need the wolf ships. I do have a box of them, so I'll probably try and paint them at some point. It was interesting at least to tackle doing the sails, just to get a bit of variation from the ones that come in the box, and to experiment with the process really. During the 2 videos, I hope there's been something there useful for you if you're thinking of tackling the Greatship or painting your own sails. And it's man o' war, it's always a good thing to be painting. I'd certainly be interested in painting some of the other ships from the other fleets. I've got quite a good collection of the minis now, so that's something else to add to my list. In any case, thanks very much for watching the video.